Hello and welcome to the Happy Picking Podcast. It's Richard here from Sheffield Banjo Lessons, and today we are going to be looking at how to build a banjo break. And to do that, we are going to look at the melody of a song and how we build from the melody to create a banjo break. In essence, how this becomes this. And we're also going to reverse engineer that and see how this was built from this. Okay, let's go. So I think it's fair to say that occasionally the banjo suffers a little bit from, where's the melody in this song? I'm getting a bit stuck. Or I've got a melody and a tune, but I don't know how to make it into a banjo song. So yeah, a lot of us generally will maybe learn a sheet of music note for note and think that note for note that is exactly how we want it to sound. That's not necessarily the case, and it doesn't have to be the case either. What we can do is build our knowledge and our understanding of how this composition's been put together so that we can let it sing in the most appropriate way that we want to play it. And if that is to the sheet, the bare minimum that should let you do is be able to lift this melody within it, have it sounding more musical and have a lot more dynamics, and you will enjoy playing that so much more for that. It'll also mean that the piece will be just way more recognizable. So if you're gigging it or you're trying to play it for friends or family, it's going to have a lot more grounding in truth and really be more understood as what the song is. So when we're looking at this, we're going to have to sort of answer the question of how we get to that, right? And the trick for this isn't going to be learning to play faster. This isn't going to be learning to play trickier licks so that we can then figure everything out. That's always going to be an element that's within there, but it doesn't answer the question for us. What actually answers the question for us is going to be the training of something different, and it's going to be our ears. And it's going to be about how we listen for where a melody is within a composition, but also we're going to need the tools to be able to know where that is built from. So we're going to train two elements with this today. And it's going to be a bit like this wonderfully dated reference of a magic eye puzzle. I don't know if you remember those with all the different, is it blues and reds maybe? Blues and whites? Anyway, where there were all these dots on the screen. And then you stand back and bit by bit, if you can focus your eyes, an image will come out. A picture of a bear will suddenly appear. I was terrible at them, so please tell me if there's a better way to do magic eye pictures. But fingers crossed we won't have that problem today with the banjo, and we'll be able to find that picture of a bear in our melody for the banjo. Right, well, I guess trying to put this back on topic, what we're going to, in essence, do is find from our full composition, where's the melody? And from our melody, how do we build a full composition? And we're going to use two examples for this today that we're going to help build this around. We're going to use the Worried Man Blues melody, so the first line, and we're going to build that and look at the blocks that we can use to sort of construct our first banjo break. And then what we're going to do is reverse engineer the first line of the Ballad of Jed Clampett. And what we're going to see is, what did Earl Scruggs do with his banjo break that was built around a melody? And we're going to take that line apart. And both of those sheets of music are going to be available for you in the usual places on the Patreon site. They're going to be available on my website, www.sheffieldbanjolessons.co.uk, in the tab store, and they're available on the Ko-Fi page, which is linked underneath as well. So if you fancy getting the tab sheets that will have your melody, plus all the building blocks and a final composition for either or both of these two, you'll be able to check them out. There'll also be an example free tab of what we cover in this lesson today. So you can check out the links and go and get yourself that so that you can do this yourself. Right. So I guess then the first thing we need to look at is what is the difference between a banjo break or solo and a melody. So let's take the melody first, actually. This is the simpler one. So you can think of it, if you want, as the song as sung. So for Worried Man Blues, and forgive this, it's going to be, it takes a worried man to sing a worried song, right? That's going to be the melody. It's as sung. It's sometimes I've heard it referred to as by the syllable, and that's not a bad way of thinking about it. If you think about it on a piano, we might have a note per syllable of what that is. So in that case, what's a banjo break? If a melody is it as sung, it's just the note for note part of the tune that goes on. Well, the banjo break is the completed component. So think of the completed sheets of music or songs that you know that are full of rolls and licks and techniques and all these different bits and bobs. They're generally going to be built around the melody and filled out and prettied out to create this full banjo break or banjo solo or whatever it is you really want to sort of view it as a banjo composition. I don't really care about the coat hanger. I care about what we're going to be doing with this. With that in mind then, let's jump straight over and learn it from Worried Man Blues. Okay, so example one then about building a banjo break. And it is Worried Man Blues we're using, as we've said before. And the melody for that is going to be from the first line. So let's think about the melody again itself. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song. Okay, we said we need this, right, as the first piece of construction we're going to have about building these breaks. And the way that's going to come out on the banjo sounds like this. I'll speak it through. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song. Yeah? Takes a worried man to sing a worried song. Right. And if we've got this, then we know we've got a bunch of melody notes. We're in 4/4, which is going to be 4 beats to the bar. And now let's have a little think about those melody notes and where they are in the bar. So it is actually a leading note or a grace note or a kick-off note, which means it comes in before the first bar of the song truly starts. If you were Whitney Houston, you would be thinking, and I, etc. Right? But because we're not Whitney Houston, we're going to be thinking, it takes a worried man. So it is on beat 4, and that's before the actual sort of song, we'll say true, song proper, starts on bar 1, beat 1. So bar 1 is going to have 4 notes, and they're going to have the syllables takes a worried. And then the next bar is going to be beat 1 for man. And that's going to be takes a worried man. Now the timing here is pretty important. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right? Takes a worried man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Cool. That's going to be important for us. So now let's look at the next part of the melody, which is to sing a worried song. And we've got that same phraseology as we had before. We've got beat 4, which was originally our grace note. Then we've got 4 beats in the bar for the phrase with 1 that ends on beat 1 of the next bar. So It Takes a Worried Man was on the count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right? Now, the end of this bar, so we're going to have 2 beats of a pause, 2 rest. We're going to have that same timing, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, to sing our worried song, right? And it's going to sound like this. So, 2nd fret, 3rd string, then open B, 2nd fret, 3rd, open. And the 2 things that these bars share, one is the timing, but the second thing is actually we've got repeated melody notes in here, right? We've got 3 on the D, A, D, 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 then B, right? So we've got repeated melody notes here. Right, so that's the thing that you want to start thinking about. Do I understand and do I hear that melody as it is? Does it make sense as what I know the song to be? And if it isn't that, well, first thing I'd say is go and listen to it. There's an amazing Eric Bibb version where you can hear just him with an acoustic guitar doing the old-fashioned blues styling version of this. Obviously, the Carter family did a huge amount with this, but being honest, although it's awesome, there's tons of vocal harmonies and stuff going in, so I'd check out the Eric Bibb version so that you can learn the melody. And then get the tab for the lesson and just play the melody until you hear it. The first few times you might not hear it because you're playing it and sort of surviving the learning, but after that then, just play it and sing it until you think, oh, that takes shape in my mind. There's no ornamentation, there's no rolls, there's no techniques, it's just that melody as you should recognise from the vocal part of the song. So, let's take a pause on that and think, but we want to build a banjo break, right? We hear this as this busier version of what we've got going on. So, to build this banjo break, if we now hear busier things going on, we're going to have to learn our first component that accompanies that melody that we can hear. And that's just which chords are we using, right? And the reason that's important is if we're going to add notes, whether they're rolled or whether they're with techniques and licks and pinches and so on and so forth, right? We are going to need to know which chord to voice so that they all make sense as we hear it. We don't want, if we're in a jam, let's think about it, we don't want to be playing the wrong chord when the guitarist or the mandolin player are chopping away at something else because it's just going to break the song. So we've got to make sure we know what's behind that. It's quite fundamental and it's quite often missed. Now, the joy for Worried Man Blues, and this is exactly why I've chosen it, it's G. It's just a G. So if you're accompanying it, it's just your open G. It takes a worried man to sing. So you could accompany it just with an open G. Or another G. Cool. Right. So in that case, if we know the chord is a G, we can really simplify things. We know that everything we can add on top, as our banjo is an open G, can be an open note. And that's an open string. And that's super, super handy when we want to build around these melody notes. We want to be able to start adding things to it, know the melody, and build rolls with the right hand. So, well, good. If it's open, I can just use every single open string. That's awesome. Now, I'm kind of half jumping the gun a little bit here. So, saying we've got the melody, and the next thing we want to do is add rolls. And let's just recap. The reason for that is so that we will get a continued phrase going with this. And when you're thinking about building a banjo break, this is usually a really solid building block to start with. Knowing your melody and then being able to add in the space around it with this continued roll formation. so that you're adding that continuity, that rolling continuous playing element for the tune. Right. But now if we think about where our melody is, we've already got 4 melody notes in some of these phrases, haven't we? It, beat 4, that's fine on its own. But the next bar, takes a worried. 4 notes. If we think of rolls, we tend to think of predominantly 8 notes where we count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So can we just add a note in between? Let's find out. Eh. Yeah, let's try that again. I'm just going to bounce from an open string away from my melody note on each one. So. That sounds all right, doesn't it? We can get away with that. And it starts building in that banjo sound. And we can do that with the second part, to sing a worried song. So let's then bring in. That would be our sort of most simplistic way of doing it, where we're taking every single melody note and we're just adding in a sort of, we'll call it a bounce note for now. We're adding in on the and between each of the independent beats of where the melody is to build that in. And that'd be acceptable. That works, but it doesn't really sound like maybe what we're thinking about when we think about banjo compositions in total. So now let's add the roll so that we can add a rhythm. And that's the point I'm getting to here, right? And to do that then, we're going to choose a forward-backward roll, a variant of a forward-backward, forward-reverse roll. The roll we're going to use is 4-2-1-5, 1-3-4-1. And we'll get to why in a minute for that. But this is what we're going to add in. But if we add that roll, we can't have every single melody note, can we? Nope. Because the beats 2 and 3 are taken up within the roll, certainly, right? Right, this is it. So what we're going to now do is we are now going to take the waypoints, or the anchor melody notes, in It Takes a Worried Man. And those are going to be when the melody note changes. We're just going to keep those in to keep the flavor. So what's going to, in essence, happen is it will change from and we're just going to keep Did that sound the same to you? Give it one more go. Two. And can you hear that we're maintaining those same building blocks, those same waypoints, those same anchor melody notes, so that we can fill in with our ears the gap of where that melody is. Right, that now gives us space to add this forward-backward roll. We've got a melody note on beat 4 for it, then the first bar comes in, and we're going to keep the melody note for takes, which is the open D. We're going to build a roll around it, but as we're doing the forward reverse, we're going to come back to our 4th string for our next melody note before we bring in the open G for the next one. And that shapes like this. Did you hear that? We'll do it again. Listen out for those melody changes. I'll overemphasize them for now. And you see what we've done here then is we've created space. We've got It Takes Rid Man, and we're singing that melody as we're going along, but we're adding that roll into it so that we can build in that continuity of play and start to get to our banjo break. But we're not playing every single melody note. So sometimes when you think, where's the melody? I can't hear it. you might have to listen for these anchor points, these waypoints in the music, and see, is it a bit of a leap of faith that I'm taking it through and then it's dropping me and hooking me back in with these anchored melody notes so I know where it joins back in? And that's what happens here. It takes rhythm man, but we've got every time the melody changes note, we're putting that in there to keep it anchored and true. Right then, so to sing a worried song then, let's do that on the next part. Well, same timing we said, right? And the same thing with 3 repeated melody notes, that B string. Cool. We're only going to keep one of those now, right? So we are going to keep the first beat of the bar, which is for sing, and then what we're going to do is we're going to have rid song. So that same idea, we're anchoring in with the beat 1 and the beat 4 into the next bar, and we're going to do a forward backward roll. But a forward backward roll doesn't usually start on string 2, does it? So what we'll do with that then is we're now going to have a bit where we move that melody note. So we're going to move that open B for sings are worried. We're just keeping sing, and we're playing it on the 4th fret of the 3rd string now. That same melody note. And what that allows us to do is keep using this forward, backward, forward, reverse roll and anchor our melody note there. Right? If you heard that. And that's what we're getting from there. We're going to have, in essence, think again, to sing a worried song. And we're starting to build that banjo composition back together. Right, so we're adding this rhythmic factor. We now need to connect the phrases though. We've got phrase 1, it takes a worried man in one of our forward rolls, forward backward rolls, and we've got to sing a worried song. We're now going to look at cutting that gap in the middle. So man was on beat 1 of the bar in between, and 2 was on beat 4. So we're just going to fill in this middle gap with another forward backward roll. But because it starts on beat 1 of man, that's our 3rd string, open, we can then use that to then start the forward roll. And 2, the word 2, is on the 2nd fret of that same 3rd string on beat 4. Well, actually, in that case, I can do the reverse roll and keep that in place as well. And that allows me to now link those 2 vocal phrases. And it'll sound like this. Just a pinch on the end to sort of finish it off. So you see how we then shaped those 2 phrases when we're building our banjo melody. We're building our banjo break from that banjo melody. We have got stripped out the melody note so that we can add a roll in the space. Giving us the pure anchor points that we need to still hear and feel that melody, and we've added rolls within it to make it continuous. Cool, so we've got our first banjo break now, this rolled version of this, and you can carry on with that idea throughout the rest of the song. Where are my melody notes? Create your waypoints and build around with a roll pattern, and you can choose whichever roll pattern you want. You could choose an alternating pattern if you want, or a pinch pattern if you don't want to be playing it quite as busy, and you can work your way through that. And that's generally we'll say the sort of structure of what goes on. But now we want to add the toppings, and this is where it's going to get interesting. So the toppings, we are going to add in our nice pretty techniques. We're going to add in our ornamentation. We are going to add, in essence, our slides, our hammer-ons, and our pull-offs. And the way we're going to do this, though, to keep this a little simpler, is we're going to use them into some melody changes. Right. And the way we can do that, then, is we can use them whenever we've got a melody note that we can take a direction into. So we've got it, we'll keep it as it is. Takes is on the low D string, so I don't want to go very far from that. So we'll take. But now, what I'm going to do is a 0 to 2 hammer on for the reed melody. It's going to be over a 16th note timing. See how we've suddenly prettied that up a little bit by adding in the hammer on into the melody note. Maybe starts to sound that little bit more like you expected it. Yep. Cool. Let's carry on with that then. So let's remember, we've got our hammer on. We're now going to go into man, so to speak. And we are going to do a 2 to 5 slide to get there. So again, we're moving up to our melody note, which is the open G, and the 5th fret of our D string, string 4. It's that same melody note. So we're going to double up on that, but we're going to slide into it. Now be mindful of your timing on this. Take a look at the sheet if you've downloaded it, or hit pause, get yourself a copy of the sheet or the songs from the sites, again, links below, and see if you can see that timing. We are going over an 8th note, so listen for that. Remember, you want to end up on the 5th fret as you're picking the next note. So, and that's going to be 2 to 5. For man, we'll carry on, and then come backwards roll, and then for 2 before the sing, we've got a 2nd fret, so we're going to hammer into that. Right? 16th note timing, still within all of these same forward backward rolls that we had before. And again. And we see how we're starting to build this solo now, right? And it's starting to have all of the bits in that you think that come in a normal banjo break. But the ear is trained and listens to these waypoint melody notes so that it still sounds like the original composition. Let's take that into to sing a worried song then. We finished our last roll on that 2nd fret, and we're going to keep that held down because we want to go into a B note, that open B string, or as we then moved it to the 4th fret of the G string. Well, because we finished on our 2nd fret, we now can do a 2 to 4 slide to reach that. Yeah? And we can carry on with our forward backwards roll. So again, this technique's over an 8th note, and we're going into that melody note again. Then we're going to keep going with our backwards roll. Now a melody note here is normally the 2nd fret. So we're going to keep that again, but what we'll do is we will pull off with a 3 to 2 pull off to give us that bluesy feel, that flattened third bluesy feel. And that one was over a 16th timing. Right, so to sing a worried song, you've got starts becoming a bit more of a banjo or bluegrass composition, right? But because we've added these rolls around the melody, we knew the melody, and therefore we were able to take techniques and ornamentation into the melody notes to let that carry. And that's going to come across as this. Happy with that? Well, that is how we took to be a rolled version and then made it a bigger break by using ornamentation into melody notes. So it's now time to reverse engineer what we've just done with Worried Man Blues with a Earl Scruggs composition, the Ballad of Jed Clampett. Now, I've chosen this one as we generally all like playing Earl Scruggs tunes, but actually his compositions and his speed that he plays at sometimes mean it's quite tricky for us to locate where the melody is. So this one's a little bit more favourable. It's a tiny bit slower, if one can believe it, and actually the original version is really obviously sung with it being that soundtrack to the Beverly Hillbillies, and I think it's that. So it's one that you can actually go and reference and listen for a sung version of a melody that's potentially just that little bit more obvious to you. But it also then is going to be designed at, like I say, being able to apply this to other Scruggs compositions or similar, so that you can reverse engineer, find that melody and help it sing when it comes out of your hands. And what I want to start off with then is, first thing, when you listen to this, it is normally played on capo 2. I am playing it without a capo today, so that anyone that's on the video form of this, when you're looking at the frets, everything will hopefully make a little bit more sense as we're speaking about it. And I'll be talking all about that native position and the banjo as it's tuned rather than trying to take the capo in. But that's going to be the difference if you listen to it a different way around. Okay, so Ballad of Jed Clampett. We are going to take that first line then of Ballad of Jed Clampett, and it plays like this. And again. So that's how it's generally come out, sort of slowed down so you can see the components that are in it. Right, so we've got a lot going on there. But actually what we're trying to do, as we heard at the very beginning of today, is that we want to figure out where does the melody, how do we extract the melody from that? Well, that melody, right, they come listen to my story about a man named Jed. That's the melody we're wanting to extract. So let me play that. Can you hear any of where that is? And we'll slow it down. Give it another go. Maybe, maybe not is what I'm going to gather from that. Right, this is the bit where it's going to be quite important to get the tab. So I'll put the bar music on the screen now if you're on the video version, and if not, you might be best printing this and taking a look at this again afterwards. But let's speak through it as well and let's see where we can get. Right, so we want come listen to a story about a man named Jed. And what we've actually got is a lot going on in that bar instead. Now, if we remember the last component, so when we were building Worried Man Blues, we went melody, then we went rolled, then we added techniques, that third part for that break. If we already have our break, let's take the first component to remove, and that's the techniques, okay? So if we do that, the bars that are, which is like that bluegrass lick style bar, but does contain our melody, becomes. So we've removed some of the busyness to try and find where that is. Now the note I've removed is going to be the one that goes into the technique. And all I'm keeping is the destination note for that technique. So if it's a 2 to 4 slide, I'm keeping the 4. If it's a 0 to 2 hammer, I'm keeping the 2. If it's a 3 to 2 pull off, I'm keeping the 2. The destination note, not the origin note of the technique. So, like I say, 2 to 4 slide, we're keeping the 4. There's a 3 to 2 pull off in this, we're keeping the 2. And it's in like an alternating style pattern. So, becomes, and we're starting to clear up what might be a little bit of a melody, right? Well, fortunately, that's the only technique we actually are going to need to really clear up in this line. That's the joy of this song as well. So, now we've taken that out, let's listen to how the piece sounds. Take that again. Okay, so now we've stripped out those techniques, it made it a lot clearer. So what we now need to do then is think about where is the melody itself. And if you listen to the original one where the vocals are, you can then start to count that in, and that's going to be the important bit, knowing sort of where they fit now. So what you'll do is you'll count against how many sort of bars and beats are in there and try to pick the idea of where it goes. So this one's got the chord changes in it. And you've got 2 bars in G, then an A minor, then a D. So you know you're going to have slight differences. And you know you're going to be able to count against these phrases that are there. So when you listen to the original, try and pick out those counts. Try and count where the melody is actually dropping. Come and listen to my story about a man named Jed. It's got a really particular, and I'll say obvious, it's got a really particular and a melody we can hear, let's say, as it goes along, as it's sung for that. So how does that feel then? Well, if we think of it as 4/4 timing, even if it's 2/4, we'll think of it as 4/4 to count. We've got 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 3 1. That makes sense? So we kind of counted and clapped along with it. Come and listen to my story about a man named Jed. Cool. If we know that and we can count where that is, can we find where that is in our arrangement then? So again, we've taken the techniques out. Right, so the first thing we can then take away from this is if we know that come and, the first 2 words, are actually over beats 3 and 4 as this sort of lead-in. Well, in our intro, we've got that little bouncy one, haven't we? Well, we know there's only 2 melody notes in there, come and. So we'll get rid of the things that go before beats 3 and 4. So we'll get rid of those 2 opens. We'll just have come and. So that worked really well. At the end of the phrase, man named Jed. We had that as 1 3 1 on our count. So what we'll do is after Jed, we're just going to sack off that roll that came after. So that roll that was, we're just going to sack that off now because we know that doesn't cover either end of that. So we know where we're working with this sort of ballpark. And what that leaves us with so far is come and listen to my story about a man named Jed. So we're starting to see those as they come along when we're trying to access our anchor point and waypoint melodies. What we're now going to have to do then is go through the rest of it. So if you hear the original, listen to my story, well, actually that bar, listen to my, is... If you hear that, it's the same melody note every time. So when we look at the composition we've got, we don't need all of that. Actually, all you've got is back to Worried Man Blues as we built that. You've got your melody note. That carries on the rest of the bar, and all we're going to do is think about announcing the changes then. So after that, it changes to the B for story, or 4th fret. Listen to my story. And what we're just going to get there, like I say, is the change. Listen to my story. And it's those anchor points, those waypoint melody changes. So everything else just fills it. So the pinch, 2nd string pinch, and just fill in that gap over needing to hear the as the listen to my. So it will be and then if we find bout a, well, story bout a, well, it's going to be story bout a, yeah? So it's B, B, and then 2nd fret, 3rd string, and then open. On a beat of 1, 2, 3, 4. Story bout a. So 4 notes again. But because we've got 2 Bs, we can just play 1 if we want, or we can let them roll through as we've seen. We've played the 4th fret in the roll, and then the open B. So it's carrying that melody note a little bit more. And then the extra that's in there is actually playing over the continued melody note. And you'll get... You see, that's still keeping come and listen, story man named Jed. And we're carrying those melody anchor changes. That's in there. So keep with me whilst we're doing this, because we're going to add in the last bar and then we'll recap and bring it all together so it makes sense as well. So the last bar we've not looked at yet is about man named as it leads into Jed. And man named 1, 3, so it's on beats 1 and 3. Same melody note twice. 2nd fret, 3rd string, and it's over an A minor when we do our rolled version. So we're keeping that same note in there as the start of our forward backward roll. Right? But because we're doing a backward roll, we're ending on that melody note we need as well, but it's kind of off kilter. So what's interesting about this is that you've got your first melody note that's carrying, and then for man, and then for named, you've got it as well, but it's going to keep us just hanging on. It's normally on beats 1 and 3, and we've now got it on beats 1 and 4 when that composition comes together. But again, it's that same idea of we're just marking changes, because it then changes the beat after the bar after for Jed. Right? And then this is where that line is built from then. So we've now been able to take out all of our melody notes. We've got by looking at the original composition, finding where the technique notes are leading to, and keeping the destination note that they were at, so that we can remove the busyness. We've listened to the melody itself from the original recording or wherever it is that we want, so that we can see where our count is for that melody. We'll be able to then At that point, see if we can count it into what's in our hands. Does it behave that way? And if we've not got all the melody notes, how is it behaving? Do we just have the waypoint changes? So if there's 3 notes that are all on that open G, are we just playing one and then announcing the next change when it changes to a different melody note? And in essence, that is what Scruggs has done here. So he has done basically the same as what we did when we built Worried Man Blues earlier on, but he's just created his own version of how to build the Ballad of Jed Clampett from that. They're all built from that absolute fundamental same recipe, which is why we want to train our ears, yeah? So the recipe is know your melody. Learn your melody. And the first part of that is listen to the song and find out what the melody is. Only when you can hum it or you can anticipate where it's going can you start to really build banjo breaks or take apart banjo breaks and really announce those melody notes within that so that it sounds like the right break from the right song. When you've got your melody, you can then just add to it, right? You can add rolls, which is what we did. If we had repeated melody notes, we just kept anchor ones that change so that we can have space to add these rolls to keep it more like this 5-string, finger-picked, bluegrassy continued play. And then we flavoured it, right? Exactly the same as what we did with licks. We've just taken in techniques, a slide, a hammer, a pull-off, right? It's as simple as that, really. You put those in. And what you've done with it, actually, in these examples, we've used our melody notes and we've had the techniques go into those. Our melody note was the 4th fret. So we slid 2 to 4. Our melody note was the 2nd fret. So we did a pull-off, 3 to 2. Or the melody note's a different 2nd fret. We did a hammer-on, open to 2. So we announced all of those and made it really pretty as it goes. And this is the exact recipe and idea of how you're going to want to build your banjo breaks. And when we've started demystifying those, you can then go back through all of your old pieces of music, see if you can apply this to it. Does your timing get better because you know your anchor points? Does it sound more musical, more fun, more fluid, more soft, more warm, more dynamic as you're playing it, right? Can you then take it and go, sweet, well, that was Earl Scruggs' version of a solo. All right, let me find the melody and let me create my version of a solo. And then you can have more and more as it goes along. And yeah, it is not, let's play it faster. It's not, let's play more licks. It is, train the ear, learn the recipe for it, and then learn how to apply this. And as most of the best lessons are, if you learn a rule about how to apply something, you unlock it for every time you need it in the future, and you can backdate it to anything else you need as well. So that is taking us to roughly the end part, and we've done both examples about how to build a banjo break from melody and how to deconstruct a banjo break to a melody. So we've survived that then. So how did you get on with that today? Remember to download the tab from the appropriate places that are all linked below and join me over on Patreon or Spotify or on the website, etc. And just get in touch, get all the things that you need so that you can play better banjo breaks. And maybe give this a go yourself. Think of melodies that you know. Think of something simple. Think of Happy Birthday, When the Saints Go Marching In, You Are My Sunshine, or if it's more traditional music you want, Will the Circle Be Unbroken, Amazing Grace. Think of these songs and see if you can find that melody. See if you can create the melody, jot it down, and then can you build a banjo break using the components we've thought of today? Can you write the melody? Can you add a roll? Can you use techniques to bring into the space or to announce those melody notes yourself? give that a go. Let me know how you got on, and let me know which songs that you gave a go to as well. And just remember, every great banjo break starts with great understanding of banjo melody. So keep that in your mind as you're going along. Carry on, and I will see you next time. Happy picking.